Hi. So as you all know, I don't have the best upload schedule in the world, so I wanted to make something for you all before my next upload, which is a collab coming out sometime next month. And I thought for a video it'd be pretty fun to show off the teams that I've used throughout the main series Pokemon games, since everyone's teams are usually very different. Now, I haven't played every main series Pokemon game all the way through, however I have played almost all of them, and should have at least one or two Pokemon to show off for at least every single game. Most of this video is going to be pretty unscripted, so I do hope you enjoy my rambling either way. Alright, so first off we have Red and Blue, which were my first Pokemon games. When I first played Pokemon Red, all I remember is that I started with Charmander and that is it. I don't remember any other Pokemon I caught, that is the only thing I remember. But the first time I properly played through all the games, for some reason I started with Squirtle, which I still think is kind of weird since I still preferred the Charmander line at the time. But for some reason I wanted to pick Squirtle and that's what happened. And the team went something along the lines of Blastoise, Kingler, Nidoking, Parasect, and Kadabra. I cannot for the life of me remember who the sixth member was. It might have been a Dragonite, it might have been a Legendary. All I know for sure is these 5 members were part of the team. Blastoise ended up being the very first Pokemon I ever got to level 100. Kingler I remember using specifically to beat Lorelei. Nidoking I just thought was cool. Parasect I don't know why I used, I just had it on the team. And Kadabra I always thought was really good, but I never knew how to evolve it. And since I had no one to trade with and didn't know how to trade, it stayed as a Kadabra forever. And that was pretty much the team I had, minus one member. Eventually I did reset the game, and every other playthrough I had I started with Charmander from now on. Unfortunately, I don't 100% remember any full teams that I had with Charizard. I remember one team having 3 normal types on it, being Raticate, Pidgeot, and Snorlax, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what the other Pokemon was. The only full team I remember ending up with at one point was Charizard, Dragonite, Mewtwo, and the Legendary Birds, which is not an interesting team at all. But I was a kid and just wanted the strongest Pokemon, so that was my team. Moving on to Pokemon Yellow, which I got off the eShop. I never actually finished it, so the team I currently have on there is Pikachu, all the starter middle evolutions, Pidgeotto, and Mew as the HN slave. And again, not a very interesting team, but that's the team I had at the time. Fire Red and Leaf Green, I've never fully finished either. I played through a bit of Fire Red just for a video, which I had a Charmeleon, but again, I never finished the game. Let's Go Pikachu on the other hand, I did finish. That team was Pikachu, all 3 fully evolved starters, a shiny Gengar I transferred from Go, and a Melmetal. So somewhat similar to what I would have had in Yellow, except I decided I wanted to use a Gengar since I've never used one before. And the 6th member, I wasn't 100% sure what to use. I think I was going to use a Dragonite at some point. But I decided on Melmetal, since it's kind of an exclusive Pokemon to this game. It wasn't in Alola, and I'm not really one for using Legendaries or Mythicals on a team, but it wasn't so overpowered, so I decided to try it out. And overall it was pretty fun to use. I do at some point want to play through Kanto again, without too many starters and with a more interesting team, but those overall were my Kanto teams, and of all the regions that I've played through, they're in my opinion the least interesting teams I've ever made. So, moving on. So I played Silver years and years ago, and all I remember is that I started with Cyndaquil and that's it. However, when Gold and Silver came to the eShop, I happily played through Silver again, and in that file my team was Typhlosion, Feraligatr and Meganium, Ampharos, Umbreon, and Lugia. I had all 3 starters because I exploited a glitch that allowed me to get all 3 starters. However, if I were to play through again, I definitely wouldn't have done that. Ampharos because it's my preferred electric type of the region, Umbreon because I've never used one, and I thought it'd be cool to try out a Johto evolution, and Lugia literally because I could not be bothered to find a 6th member. I wanted to complete the game, and Lugia I had already caught, so I decided to just use it. I've never played through Crystal before, but I do want to, especially because I'm able to shiny hunt Celebi, so I do plan on playing through that game at some point. Moving on to the remakes, my team on my original Soul Silver was Typhlosion, Jolteon, the Red Gyarados, a Tangrowth, Tyranitar, and Salamence. I remember looking at this team in the Hall of Fame and not remembering anything about half the team. I remember using Jolteon a lot in the Pokéathlon, and using the shiny Gyarados makes a lot of sense. But the other three I had no idea that I used. I also have a copy of Heart Gold, and I did actually hunt for a shiny starter, eventually getting a shiny Cyndaquil. However, I don't really have a team on that game since I never fully played through it, but I probably will finish that at some point. For Hoenn, the only time I played through Ruby or Sapphire was on an emulator, and it was a randomizer for someone else's channel, so I don't really have a proper team on that game. I did, however, have a copy of Emerald I played a lot, years ago, and I don't really remember what the team was. The members I do remember is I had a Sceptile, a Swellow, Manectric, maybe a Crawdont, and I think I had a Rayquaza on the team as well, but just like Red and Blue, not 100% sure. It might have been somewhat similar to Ash's team in the anime. For the remix though, according to the Hall of Fame, my team was a Sceptile, a Manectric, a Camerupt, a Sharpedo, Steven's shiny Metagross, and a Salamence. I remember wanting to use Camerupt and Sharpedo since they were the team leader's signature Pokemon. Shiny Beldum was an event, and eventually became a shiny Metagross, and Salamence was the pseudo-legend of the region. I eventually started an Alpha Sapphire playthrough, where I played as May, and I tried to assemble her anime team, and before I deleted it, it was Combuskin, Swellow and Lombre, which looking back wasn't actually her team. But after starting a new save file, I successfully hunted for a shiny Trico, and do plan to play through that at some point. I don't have a planned team for it yet, but shiny Sceptile will definitely be on the team eventually. For my most nostalgic region, we have Diamond and Pearl, which for the first playthrough of Pokemon Diamond, I started with Chimchar, which became an Infernape, and the rest of the team was Staraptor, Luxray, Roserade, Floatzel, which was in a Heal Ball, and a Dialga. I unfortunately don't have this copy of Diamond anymore, so I can't verify whether the Dialga was the 6th member, but I'm pretty sure this was the team. Those first 5 Pokemon I am certain of anyway. And for my personal favourite Pokemon Platinum, my team was Infernape, a Sceptile, since I transferred a Trico from Emerald to this game, a Staraptor, a Floatzel, an Electivire, and a Garchomp. This is definitely one of my absolute favourite teams I've ever used, although I will admit I did quite miss some of the old members of the team, so eventually I did start a new playthrough on Diamond again, this time transferring some Pokemon that I radar chained over. So my team on that was a Chimchar, a shiny Starly, a shiny Shinx, a shiny Voodoo, and a shiny Buizel. I never finished the playthrough, so the team hasn't fully evolved yet, but I did plan for the 6th member to be a Riolu since, well, as you can see, I've never actually used a Lucario in a Gen 4 playthrough, but that will hopefully change in the future. For Unova, this was pretty interesting. My first Gen 5 game was Pokemon White, which my team was Serperior, Simipour, Archeops, Electros, Xylus, and Zekrom. Or at least, that was my first game clear. I believe you have to use Zekrom in your battle against N, so that wasn't my full proper team. After that, the next time I beat the Elite Four, my team was Serperior, Gyarados, Archeops, Electros, Volcarona, and Hydreigon. Even though Serperior is my favourite Unova starter, it is one of the least fun Pokemon to use since its move pool is so bad. Simipour I remember using, although I'm not surprised I switched it out for Gyarados. Archeops I used for its really strong stats, Electros because it had no weakness, Hydreigon for being the pseudo-legendary, and Volcarona because it is one of the best designed, coolest Pokemon in my opinion. And then moving on to Black and White 2, I got Black 2 instead of White 2 because I preferred this cover legendary, and that team was, again, Serperior, Unpheasant Male this time, Lucario since you can catch Riolu early in the game, a Zoroark, Darmanitan, and Seismitoad. I really wanted to use a Zoroark, and I don't think you were able to catch one at a good time in Black and White. Darmanitan was actually N's Pokemon, so it sparkled when it came out the ball even though it wasn't a shiny. And Seismitoad I wanted a water type and I decided to use it even though I'm not that big on the Pokemon. So I think this is a pretty interesting mix of Pokemon I used for Unova personally. Next up for Kalos, I played Pokemon Y and my team was Greninja, Charizard which was my Mega Evolution of the team, Gogoat, Aegislash, Tyrantrum, and a Gardevoir. Greninja and Charizard are two of my favourite Pokemon, and the fact that you get given a Kanto starter at the beginning of the game, kind of hard to say no to, otherwise I would have had a Talonflame instead. Aegislash I thought was one of the coolest Pokemon introduced. I also thought Tyrantrum was pretty cool, and I cannot for the life of me remember why I used a Gardevoir. Maybe to use a fairy type on the team. Unfortunately there was no Pokemon Z, but I recently started a new file on Pokemon X, successfully getting a shiny Froakie as my starter, and the team currently is a shiny Frogadier, a female Litleo, and a yellow Floette. However, I do plan for that team to eventually be a shiny Greninja, a female Pyroar, a Florges, a Lucario as my Mega, a Trevenant, and a Noivern. But if that doesn't end up being my team, I'll probably leave an updated version in the pinned comments below. Alola personally had some of my favourite Pokemon teams, and my Pokemon Sun team was Incineroar, a shiny Golisopod, a Shiinotic, a Toucanon, a Dayform Lycanroc, and a Kommo-o. Litten is still one of my absolute favourite starter lines. I hunted for a shiny Wimpod, which didn't actually take too long since the resets were so quick. Shiinotic is now one of my absolute favourite fairy types. I know it's not too popular, but I really love it. Lycanroc is now one of my favourite rock types, and Kommo is alright. It's the pseudo legend, so I decided to use it. Moving on to Ultra Sun, I again used Incineroar, I used a non-shiny Golisopod, a Shiinotic, a Dusk form Lycanroc since it was an event Pokemon, an Alolan Raichu, being the first Alolan form I've used, and a shiny Mimikyu, which I used Masuda method to hunt and took way too long, but Mimikyu shiny form's awesome, so worth it. And then I had one other team for Alola that was Incineroar, Mewtwo, Arceus, Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. And the last region for now that we have to talk about is Galar. My team for Pokemon Shield was my Cinderace, Orbeetle, Toxtricity, Low-Key form, Grimmsnarl, a shiny Arctovish, and Dragapult. Scorbunny was easily my favourite of the starters. Orbeetle is now easily my favourite regional bug. Toxtricity is now one of my new favourite Pokemon. I'm not the biggest fan of Arctovish, but I wanted a water type, and for whatever reason decided to shiny hunt this thing, which took way too freaking long to get. And Dragapult is now easily one of my favourite pseudo legendaries, either this or Garchomp. This is another team I really loved, and even though we don't have a third Galar game yet, I recently started a new file on Sword. I pretty much have all the members, however they're not fully evolved, but that team will eventually be Inteleon, Corviknight, Centiskorch, Toxtricity Upbeat form, a shiny Flapple, and Hatterene. I was originally going to use Boltund, but not gonna lie, I wanted to use Toxtricity again, so use the Upbeat form this time. And I picked Hatterene because Hatterene is basically Grimmsnarl's opposite, so almost completely different from my Shield team. And there it is, every team that I have had in a main series game so far. I doubt an updated version of this will happen anytime soon, but given that I'm playing through more Pokemon games nowadays, maybe I'll be able to make one sooner than expected. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed, as it does help the video out. Subscribe and ring the bell for more Pokemon content in the future, and until next time, thank you so much for watching.